No, never. They must pay for them. Corporates must pay.
What's wrong?
How they should behave with corporations.
How to choose the right accelerator.
It's crazy. You don't need to be in Barcelona. You don't need to be in London. You don't need to be in New York or in Silicon Valley to build something really great.
Good day to everyone. This is Venture Investor Economic Focus by InnMind, and today our guest is Miguel Ferreira. Miguel is director and co-founder of a very important accelerator in Europe, and not only, Impact Accelerator, which has recently rebranded into ISDI Accelerator. Hi, Miguel.
Hello, how are you?
Awesome. Very glad to see you, Miguel. What is going on with the rebranding of Impact Accelerator into ISDI?
Okay, yes. Well, Impact Accelerator, we started operation 6 years ago. And as you said, we are one of the largest acceleration companies in Europe. But recently, there are a lot of other companies using the word impact in many ways, many different ways. So it's kind of confusion for the market. So we decided to change our brand to ISDI Accelerator, ISDI Accelerator, because we are part of a digital business school called ISDI. So now it's better to work together with the same brand and under the same umbrella. But we still keep some acceleration programs because we develop different programs with different public entities, also with some corporations. Every program has a different brand, and some of them still are using the impact word. For example, we 3 weeks ago, we launched Impact EdTech, which is a new program on education technology for the whole European Union, and it's also called Impact. So we will keep using the same word, but our brand is now ISDI Accelerator.
Okay, that sounds reasonable indeed, not to get confused with the Impact Hub and many other initiatives.
Exactly.
Miguel, I know that in ISDI Accelerator, you work a lot with corporate partners in order to put them in touch with amazing startups in your network and do real POCs and real pilots with corporate partners. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that, and especially about how you organize this work? Because every startup founder knows that the most difficult and challenging part is to get in touch and to get into the corporate sector, really to start POC or pilot with them.
Yeah, it's something, it's funny because it has the same complication for startups, but also for corporations to work together. The reason is that they talk different languages. It's a different culture, a different way to do things. So it's complicated for both sides. And what we are trying to do is to teach the corporates the startup language to be able to talk in the same language, to understand each other. So the first thing we do with corporations is to train them in innovation methodologies and also to teach them about how startups behave and why. This is the first step in our relation with corporations. This is the first thing we do. We develop for them, for example, not only training, but also incubation programs to develop their own internal projects, their internal startups, and we put them to work like startups with our own methodologies, with our own mentors. And in that way, they need to break things. They need to work in a different way. They are thinking out of the box totally. They don't need to behave like the usual corporation. So in that way, they learn how to work like a startup. When they do that, then they are trained. They are able to speak the startup language. Then we can start working with the startups. Then we find the best startups for the verticals that the corporation are looking for. And then they can start working together in proof of concepts and pilots, etc. And all the time we are working with them together with the startups and corporations, leading them to work together in the best way possible. And it's working very, very well so far.
My God, that really sounds cool. That you do not teach startups the language of corporations, which sounds like a mission impossible. But you do another way around, and that seems to work. Can you name a few corporations among your partners, just for our people who will watch this video to understand the level of your network?
Sure. We have many different programs, but probably the two bigger programs are, one of them is with UNICEF. We are working with UNICEF in Spain and Latin America. And our largest program is with Toyota Motor Europe. We are working with Toyota for more than 1 year so far. We developed for them until now 5 incubation programs internally to teach them how to work with startups. And we also launched a program which was called Toyota Startup Awards. It was a selection of the best startups on the mobility field. And now with the winners, we are working on an acceleration, Toyota Startup Accelerator. And we choose 5 of the best mobility startups worldwide from different countries in the world. And now they start working with us. And in a few months, they will be able to work with the corporation. But first, as I said, we needed to work with Toyota people to be sure that they will be able to work with startups. There's some things like not just knowing the language, but also to develop expedited processes, for example, to take decisions faster. This is something, or to identify the right people internally in the corporation that need to take the decisions to work with the startups. But we are also working with the startups about how they should behave with corporations. You know, it's two-way work with corps and with the startups. But yes, Toyota and UNICEF are our largest partners so far.
My God, it sounds like dreams come true. Do you really manage to speed up the decision-making process in corporate customers?
Yeah, this is key. If we can do that, we never will be able to launch a successful acceleration program with them. It's impossible. Some corporations are launching, and I have to be very honest with you, some corporations are launching some acceleration programs just because it's good for marketing, for marketing reasons, for PR, you know. And but we are not working with this kind of corporations. We prefer to don't work with them because it will be a fiasco, it will be a disaster. Our client is not the corporation, our clients are the startups. So if we are not able to develop that program that can help the startups, then we won't. That's why we need first to work with corporations to be sure that they will add value on their acceleration programs to the startups. If not, I prefer to don't work with them.
That sounds really wise and very, very reasonable.
How
about... Yeah, sorry.
At the end, if you can't add value to the startups, probably you are generating them some problems and issues. Probably they will die in the process. So nobody wins. I mean, what's the reason to develop a program that is not going to help the startups? For the corporations, nothing is going to happen because they won't get any provider or any partnership with the startups. They won't be able to develop an interesting pilot or an interesting proof of concept. So there is no reason to do that. It's a loss of time and effort. So we prefer to work only with the corporations that are really, really, really interested and they are ready to work in a real way with startups.
On your experience, how many startups from your acceleration program managed finally and successfully to launch a pilot together with corporate customer?
Well, we have worked with around 200 startups in our acceleration programs in the past. Now we are having in process, we have around 100. So we are increasing the number of startups we are working with. In the past, with the 200 startups we work with them, I think around 50 of them were able to develop pilots with corporations. Not all the programs are oriented to work with corporations, to be honest. This is only one part of our business. We have another part, which is accelerating startups by themselves without corporates at all. But around 50 develop pilots, and around 30 of them were able to develop successful programs with corporations, and now they are providers, and some of them were acquired by corporations. We have 4 exits so far.
4 exits? Congratulations, that is a good result.
Thank you.
Miguel, before we finish the topic about corporations, can you please name a few most common mistakes you observe which startups typically do when they work with corporate customers?
That's a very good question, very interesting. We have seen so many times these mistakes. It's always the same. It's very common, for example, that startups contact with digital transformation departments or with innovation departments. In some cases, in some corporations, these departments are only, how can I say that? Not marketing, but they are not really, they don't have good budgets. They don't have real power to develop real projects, you know. It's more like a game that they are playing because the board needs to say that they have innovation, you know. It's true. I mean, I prefer to be honest with you. And these startups are trying to reach these guys because it's very easy to contact with them. It's relatively easy to develop proofs of concepts or pilot with them. But at the end of the day, these programs, this pilot, these proof of concepts are only to show that the innovation department is doing something with the startups. It's a show. It's not real. They are not in contact with the real people who has the budgets. They are not in contact with the departments that will launch their products to the real market. So at the end of the day, they can spend 6 months, 1 year working on a pilot or in a proof of concept and nothing happens. And this is a very common mistake. You need to work not with the innovation departments. They can be the entry level, but you need to work directly with the departments that has the budgets, with the departments that will develop the real thing. Because if not, it's only a game. It's only a game, and it's a loss of time. This is very common, for example. Mm-hmm. Also, another mistake is to develop pilots for free. No, never. They must pay for them. Corporates must pay for the pilots. This is key also. Another common mistake is if you have a digital product, I mean, as a software as a service, for example, many corporations will ask you to do some changes to adapt your product to their needs. This is another mistake, because if you are doing that, your product will work only for this corporation, and you won't be able to sell the product to other corporates or to other SMEs, for example. So you need to keep your product on the center of your strategy. Don't change it just because one client asks for it. You can do some minor adaptations, but that's all. If you change your product totally because a corporation is asking to you, you will become part of their company, but you won't develop a real startup. So yeah. These are some common mistakes I have seen in the past.
That is true. About the third one, actually, it is relevant for various kinds of business models. I mean, listening to your customer, but not following each of them too much. And about the first mistake which you mentioned, do you really think that those business departments in the corporations are really open and ready to talk with startups?
It depends on the maturity of the corporation, you know. If they have real corporate innovation programs, yeah, maybe it can happen, but it's not very common, to be honest with you. For me, in my opinion, all the corporate innovation programs in most of the companies are just starting, and they still need to develop this internal culture to be able to work with startups. At the end of the day, when the innovation department or the digital transformation department or whatever, this kind of more digital-oriented business units are trying to close an agreement with a startup, then you will face the lawyers, you will face the purchase departments, you will face the real business units, and they have a different process. They have a different levels of security to be sure that you won't fail. So it means that you need, for example, to be profitable, for the last 3 years to be able to work with them. And this is not possible in a startup. You know, you are losing money all the time. So you won't be able to pass through these walls. And maybe you have been negotiations with the innovation department for 3 months, 6 months. And at the end of the process, you won't be able to sign a real contract with them. It will be just a pilot, but not a real product in the market, because you are not able to pass through the purchase and lawyers processes. So it depends on the maturity of the company, of the corporation, and not all of them are ready. That's the real situation.
Speaking about other business model or other side of activity, of ISDI Accelerator. So tell briefly, please, about this.
Yeah, we have three different business units in our acceleration company. One of them is corporate innovation. That is the one I explained to you before. The other one is we have our own programs. This is really new. We launched so far 2 programs only. One of them is an investors club. We are trying to lead all the deal flow we are generating in all the acceleration and incubation programs we have through this investors club, to be able to send the better startup to the best investors, to match them. We are doing kind of a matchmaking thing to put together startups and investment opportunities with investors. This is our investors club. And also we launched recently a startup incubation program for our alumni from our business school. It's called ISDA Start. Okay, and it's just starting, and it's going pretty well. We are going to launch in July our first batch of 5 startups, and they look really awesome. So we are very happy with that, and we are going to repeat the same program in October. So at the end of the year, we'll have 10 startups up there, created, developed by our own alumni. This is the second business unit. And the first business unit we have, which is the one that we started, is a business unit that is working with public entities. We work with public entities to develop with them programs that help to develop innovation and startups in different markets, different countries, different verticals. We started working with the European Commission. We have developed with them many acceleration programs. Usually, we used to have 1 or 2 really huge acceleration programs with the European Commission. Now we are running 4 at the same time, which is awesome. And I hope that this year we will be able to develop between 8 and 10. We will see if we are successful with that. Right now we have 4 programs, which is Impact EdTech, 1 program with 7 million in education technology. Another one is called DHA Square, is Manufacturing 4.0. Another one we are going to launch in a couple of months is Soft for CF, which is also manufacturing in 4.0, but this is related with in the interaction between robots and people working together. You know how they can work together, how our way to work with these robots will work. And the 4th one is called Robot Union, which is robotics startup, which is really amazing, really a really fun program. So we are working with public entities, with corporations, as also with our own programs. Also in the case of public entities, we are working with local entities in different countries. One of the most amazing programs we have is with KOTRA. KOTRA is the trade agency of the Korean government, South Korea, of course. And we are helping startups from Korea, growth startups in the growth phase. They are scaling big companies. We are helping them to come to Europe through Spain. We are helping them with a soft landing program and acceleration program to introduce themselves in the European market, which is awesome because the companies that are coming from Korea are amazing technologies, amazing people, a different culture. Is really cool to have this program in place. I am really happy with that.
Can you please tell us more in details about this work with public entities, and also very interesting about how do you help Korean startups? I agree with you. There are a lot of amazing projects there. We also had a few startups from Korea last years, and they're very special. But at the same time, there is a huge difference in mentality, in style of communication, in everything. And how do you create this bridge and help them to integrate into European mindset?
Yeah, what we do is first we start with an analysis of we analyze the companies, every company, each of them, the companies that they are selected first by KOTRA. We are helping them to do this selection, but at the end, the decision is theirs. And we analyze the companies, then we understand the market, their needs. We have some calls with them to understand better. And before coming to Spain, we prepare for them a training program oriented to cover their needs. This program is not only oriented to cover their needs, but also we are trying to introduce themselves some key people in the startup ecosystem in Europe. It means they will work with during the training with other entrepreneurs from Europe, with investors, business angels, some corporations. So we put everything together, and during 1 week, we train them during 5 days to be able to understand how the European startup ecosystem works, and also some training in the things they need. For example, marketing or growth hacking or whatever, This is the first step. Later, once we have this training, we do a second analyze, having additional meetings with them, in this case, face-to-face. And then we assign to them a follow-up mentor. It's a strategy mentor. Usually this is an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur that has successful startups in the past. And this person is going to help them during the whole process of the acceleration program to introduce themselves, not only to develop within the strategy, to come into Europe, but also to introduce themselves, the key people in different areas, to be able to develop their businesses here in Europe. And besides that, we are introducing the companies into our own ecosystem with our contacts in corporations, but also in other startups. We introduce themselves a lot of people. We invite them to events. At the end is to be able to train them to stay here in Europe and to understand the culture and how this ecosystem works.
I think that would be also relevant not only for Korean startups, but for many other startups from outside of Europe. The question is, do they need really to establish Spanish or other legal entity in another country in order to enter European market, or they can do it without legal setup?
It depends. It depends on the product and services they are launching. If there are logistics involved, for example, probably they will need a local branch. But if they are offering just a digital product, like software as a service, for example, they don't need really to create a local branch. But it depends. Of course, we put them in contact with lawyers, with local lawyers, to develop the right strategy to be sure that they are covering all their needs. And yes, you are right. This is something that it can be helpful not only for startups from Korea. We are closing a deal with an acceleration company in Canada to do exactly the same, to be able to develop this program and to launch European startups to Canada, and at the same time to bring Canadian companies here to Europe using the same model.
Sounds cool. And how do you work with public entities? You mentioned that one of your activities is working with public entities and building some ecosystem and training startups. So how does it work? Because everyone knows that public entities are even worse than corporate customers.
Oh yeah, that's true. We started these projects with the European Commission. The European Commission is launching around 2 or 3 times per year different programs. They want to develop, for example, they want to develop the robotics market, for example, or I don't know, AI, for example, startups. So you can present a program, a project, about how you think you can help to develop this market in Europe. Sometimes it's incubation programs, sometimes it's incubation plus training, sometimes it's training plus acceleration, sometimes it's training, incubation, acceleration, and pilots with corporations. It depends on the maturity of the startups. It depends if you are going to work with SMEs or with larger startups. It depends if they are in early stage or in growth. It depends on many things. For example, in the robotics fields, the acceleration programs takes much longer than the usual acceleration programs because they need to develop hardware. It's much more complicated, and they need to develop many tests to be able to launch the product to the market. So the acceleration programs are much longer, and you need also training in business, and technical parts. So usually we are creating consortiums with different companies. Some of them are offering technical point of view or technical advice. Some of them are offering help with funding. And in our case, for example, we are offering usually training and acceleration. But it depends. We can do almost everything because we are covering many things. But usually we try to work with different companies. Also, we involve corporations. And if the European Commission likes the program and they think that the program is going to be helpful, they put the funds. For example, in a program that is 6 million or 7 million euros for the program, for each program, around the 20% is for professional services. So they are paying us to offer this mentoring, this training, this acceleration, and the rest of the money is going directly to the startups, equity free, okay? But the tricky thing is that the startups must work to get the money. It means that you are not getting the money just because you are part of the program. There is a selection process, which is very difficult, but once you are in the program, you are not getting the money yet. You need to be able to develop some deliverables and also to reach some KPIs, and we will control that you are doing that, because this is public money, and we don't want to release the money if you are not able to develop something really meaningful. If you are not able to develop a real interesting project with your startup, you are not getting the money. And the money will be back to the European Commission. You see? So it's around 20% of the money is going to pay our professional services, and the 80% is going to the startups, but only if they are able to work seriously on the program. Usually they do, okay? But sometimes there are startups that are out of the program because they are not able to develop something that they need to, and so they are out of the program. We are really serious with that, and this is how we work with the European Commission. It's always equity free. For example, in this program, EdTech, that we launched recently, the open call is still open until the end of June. The startups that are able to reach the final goals that we are going to put on the process, they will be able to get 190,000 euros equity free, which is a lot of money.
It is 1,090,000.
No, 1 million, no. It's 200K, almost 200K.
Okay. But this is also a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And they will also get, of course, mentoring, perks, training. Well, it's pilots, proof of concept. There is a lot of things. Also, we are going to put them in contact with the education ministries in Europe. So they will work developing proof of concept and pilots with the public education schools, which is great. It's amazing.
I fully agree with you. And there are so many startups in the EdTech field. So if you said that the application is still open until the end of June.
Yes, exactly. It's open. You can apply now until the end of June. So far, we have 200 of them, which is amazing in only 3 weeks. And we know that usually the largest amount of applications will come the very last day. You know?
It's usually, yes, of course.
Yeah, it's how it works. But we have 200 so far. So we believe that we will have more than 2,000 applications for sure in this program. It's really huge now.
Oh my God. Then those who are watching this video, we will put in the description the link where you can read the criteria for this application and the link for the application. And please don't hesitate to apply. It's a great chance, really cool. You will be able, if you win, to provide educational services and to implement your product into all the public schools, the universities, and the public programs in EU. It is really great.
Yeah, and we will help also to do the fundraising if necessary. So yes, it's nothing to lose. Equity free. So
absolutely. So Miguel, how just to clarify one more for myself, if I understood you correctly, how it works with governments or public entities like European Union? They want to support one or another industry or sector or region, yes? And they announce program, for example, robotics in Spain or EdTech in all over Europe. Mm-hmm. And then they give money to you in order to provide the services. Part of this money goes to the education, selection, acceleration services. And the hugest part of this money are for the startups, but you are the guys who select the startups, who do the global scouting, who do the press selection, confirmation, competition, whatever, and then approval. Yes?
And also a lot of reports for the European Commission, because you need to, you can imagine, it's crazy. It's crazy. You need to report constantly every step of the program. There is a person from the European Commission managing the whole picture, just controlling everything. We are taking the decisions, but we need to report constantly. We have weekly or monthly meetings with this person, and there is continuously reporting to the European Commission. They want to know that their money is well spent, So yeah, but this is exactly how it works.
If you have questions which we did not cover in this and other videos, or you have in your mind some interesting speakers you would like us to invite for the next interviews, please don't hesitate to put it in the comments under this video. Leave your feedback. This is essentially important for InnMind team. And I promise, we read every comment and we reply to each of you. And we will consider your recommendations, questions, and feedback in the preparation of our next videos and content to be sure that we provide the most valuable and useful content for startup founders and tech entrepreneurs.
Do startups need to pay anything for this program?
No, free, totally free.
So they need to match your criteria or the criteria of the sponsor of this program, and then
that is pretty difficult because, as you can imagine, there are many startups applying. So in our programs, you can see 2,000 startups is pretty normal.
And how do you choose among thousands? I mean, physically, it will be very difficult even to review each project. Do you have some automatic scoring system?
It's a funnel. At the very beginning, the first step is an automatic scoring. Depending on the program, we value one thing or another. Depends on the program, the maturity, many things. Okay, there is an automatic score. The second level is we have external experts, entrepreneurs, VCs, business angels, different experts that are going to analyze one by one each startup. Each startup needs to have at least 3 valuations for external experts. Then we get some numbers, a new ranking, and we do a cut, and different. This is going step by step, and at the end of the process, we will have around 50, 100, depends on the program, startups. These ones are the ones that are coming to a jury day. A jury day is not a day, it's 2 days usually, or even 3 days. And during 2 or 3 days, we are going to see with a jury, which is formed usually for people from our company, also from some VCs or another external experts. And also, if we are working in a consortium in the European Commission, for example, there is also people from the other companies. Some corporations could be there too. And this jury will decide which ones are the best startups that are going to get into the program. Usually 20, 25, it depends.
It looks very similar to the due diligence process by VCs, for example.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's faster. Little bit faster, but yeah, it's similar.
You do a lot of work online and substitute a lot of offline meetings, sessions, events. I guess that is why also that is one of the reasons why, in comparison with other accelerators suffering now from the current pandemic, you feel very good and well positioned. But you also have these offline campuses in 6 countries in the world. Why do you need them? What is going on there?
Well, our campuses is for our business school mostly, but we are using them for events because we, of course, think that face-to-face meetings are also important. But in some moments, not all the time. In our case, we don't think that for an acceleration program makes sense to be all the time together, all the startups in the same place. I mean, it's not bad. But at the end of the day, you are working with your team. So what's the reason to be all together? It doesn't make sense for us. We prefer people working in their own offices, and we think it's better in that way. But we need to generate the sparks that leads to fundraising, to pilots, and it means people need to meet together, and sometimes eventually in parties or in trainings or in demo days or jury days. So yes, we are developing some events. We are also going to some huge events out there all around the world. We are going there to explain our programs, and sometimes we are inviting the startups. We also organize travels. For example, let's go to have 1 week in Silicon Valley to meet the key people there, or let's go to Singapore to meet the key people there, or to China, or to London, or to Israel, to Tel Aviv. So we are also organizing this kind of trips. So yes, face-to-face events are also important, but it's not the everyday work. The everyday work, people need to be at their own home with their teams. We think it's the best way to work and to be able to grow.
We know, all of us, we know well about the example of Silicon Valley in San Francisco. And there are many countries in Europe which try to replicate this experience. And there are many cities as well. For example, Madrid tries to do a lot with startups, tries to build its own ecosystem. Silicon Valley, I don't remember how it is called in Madrid. Barcelona tries to become the #1 city in Europe for startup activities, etc. But honestly, and there are many, many, many more. But honestly, I don't see yet any kind of analog or substitution. For some period of time, Germany seemed, or Berlin seemed to be very, very similar, but at one moment they moved to another direction and again became slower and more difficult and more complicated. So working with governments, with those actually people who take these decisions, who make actions, who approve different programs of development of the regional startup ecosystem. What is your opinion? What's wrong?
I have been fighting with that idea so many years. I used to live in Silicon Valley. Okay, I did live there. Yeah, I live there, so I know the ecosystem very well. It's a mistake to replicate this kind of ecosystem. I mean, it won't work, because you don't have the same basement that they have. They have Stanford, they have Berkeley, they have Sand Hill Road where the investors are. It's impossible. You cannot replicate that. It doesn't make sense. They are doing very well with their model, but at the same time they're suffering because the pricing there to get a developer, to pay a rental for your office, etc., is huge. With 10% of that money, you can build a very competitive startup here in Europe anywhere. That's why one of the reasons that we are working in remote, because we don't feel that it's necessary to be in a city or in a region anymore. You can be everywhere. You can work everywhere. And now with the pandemic, it is showing that we were right. I mean, and probably in the future, we will see much more startups working from different places. We have startups working very well here in Spain, in small cities like Valencia, in regions like Asturias, which is really tiny. My own company would used to be in a small city which is called Logroño in the north of Spain. We have amazing companies in Ireland, in Poland. So why not? You don't need to be in Barcelona. You don't need to be in London. You don't need to be in New York or in Silicon Valley to build something really great. And now it's clear that it's not necessary anymore. So for us, this pandemic is horrible, of course, but in some ways they are showing that we were right. It's not necessary to be on a special city to develop something really great. I think this pandemic is going to change many things, and this is going to be one of them. I don't know how Silicon Valley is going to evolve. They have a lot of money, a lot of experience, a lot of talented people, but I feel like in many places around the world, in Europe, in Asia, also in North America, there are a lot of new startups growing really strong, and it's not necessary anymore to be in Silicon Valley to create something great. So that's my opinion.
The best answer I could expect to this question. Miguel, you have all my sympathy and all my support, really. I have the feeling that Silicon Valley is losing its advantages very fast during last years. And with the pandemic, it became even more obvious. And now yes. I see a lot of market players, they are trying actually not to promote their businesses, but to promote Silicon Valley in general, because most probably they feel the same. Yeah.
100% agree with you.
What advice you will give to startup founders on how to choose the right accelerator? Because there are so many of them, and not all of them are good for, even if they are good, the good accelerator, but not good for each startup. And there are therefore there are a lot of cases on the market when founders are unhappy, when they didn't get the results, etc. So what you will advise?
This is a very tricky question because I really feel, for example, in Spain, only in Spain, we have more than 90, almost 100 acceleration companies. It's crazy. Only 5 of them are offering real value to the startups. That's the situation. And probably it's the same all around Europe, okay? So how to choose properly? First of all, look at the team that is managing the acceleration company. Second, ask to the startups that have in there, ask other entrepreneurs. This is key. Don't apply to any acceleration company without asking first other entrepreneurs that have in there. And for me, this is the 2 key elements that you need to analyze. Third, analyze what they are offering in exchange of your equity, because most of them will ask you for equity. If they are asking for equity, ask why and what are they really offering, because sometimes they are offering just an office space, a co-working space, and nothing else. Some events, not a real methodology. What kind of methodology are they offering? Are they offering training, real training, but not a training like just one masterclass one day, another one masterclass in 2 weeks from now? No. What is the method? What is the methodology they are following? Because there is a lot of noise out there, a lot of buzz, and a lot of empty acceleration programs. So methodology, team, and of course, ask another entrepreneurs before applying to any acceleration program, because if you are part of the wrong acceleration program, it will hurt your company. It's extremely important.
Amazing. Miguel, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and expertise with us today. And I ask you guys, those who are watching this video, watch this till the end. If you are interested, if you have questions, please ask in the comments, leave your comments, because we will look at the results and the feedback from the audience. And if we see that my feeling is right and we need more Miguel for the next interviews, going deeper to the topics, then please help me to prove this feeling and leave your opinion and feedback here. Miguel, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for answering our questions.
I will be more than happy to answer additional questions if people have more questions for me. And the point here that all the interview was oriented to talk about the situation of the pandemic and the market. And I think I didn't answer just one question about that, but it's great. It's great. I love the interview. It was really interesting. Thank you.
Pandemic will become better and will be over one day, but those questions which we discussed today, I guess, they will be relevant even in a year or two, because they really are the pain for many startups. So thanks a lot for sharing and spending your time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.